Yeah, in education or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I
morning, everyone. I am so glad to see you, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm Charlotte Ann Lucas. I'm Executive Director of Nowcast SA, and I've been a journalist since, well, since there were manual typewriters in newsrooms. Nobody else here is old enough to remember that, right? Today's mayoral debate about the quality of life issues falls right in the sweet spot of the work we do at Nowcast SA. Nowcast SA is a lot like public television on the internet, a local C-SPAN, a trusted part of the civic fabric and the future of San Antonio. We inform and engage people about public policy, health, the environment, education, and culture. Our nonprofit mission is to promote and facilitate an inclusive civic conversation. Now in its 10th year, Nowcast SA has expanded access to trustworthy news and information, empowering nearly 650,000 individuals to make smarter decisions for themselves. We promote local civic engagement using live video to create online forums for community conversations about quality of life, neighborhood news, culture, social justice, equality, human rights, government accountability, and transparency. In the last municipal elections in 2017, we published more than 20 hours of video on our YouTube channel of candidate forums and debates. This month, we're doing it again. We will record events bumper to bumper, uncut, we don't blink, so you can exercise your very own think for yourself muscles. As soon as this debate ends today, you can hit the replay button and share it with your friends and your kids and your grandkids. It'll be on their favorite channel, YouTube. I'm proud to say that, thanks to sponsorship from AARP, our most popular piece of content of all time is our early voting polling place map that shows you on your computer or your phone the closest place where you can go to vote. Since 2010, that map has been used by 190,000 different people to find a place to vote. Many of those people are people like you and me. Yes, I'm over 50, and we vote in every single election, no matter what, right? And what better place to have this conversation today than in Palo Alto College? Just last Tuesday, the Aspen Institute gave Palo Alto College its Rising Star Award, marking this campus with 10,600 students as one of the top 5 community colleges in the nation. During the award ceremony, Palo Alto College was honored for building clear pathways to degrees and transfer, and for exceptional student advising and strong partnerships with the K-12 systems nearby, which have resulted in, this is so amazing, remarkable improvement in graduation and transfer rate over 4 years from 28% to 47%. That's just so amazing. Yeah, let's give this college a round of applause. And now, for the organization whose support made this important debate and discussion possible today, our partners in civic engagement and in nonpartisan voter education, AARP. This debate is made possible by the financial support of AARP. And oh, by the way, lunch boxes are available for everyone who attended today, and for those who came on the bus, your lunches are waiting for you on the bus. Please join me in thanking AARP. Representing AARP today is John Vasquez of San Antonio, the newest member of the AARP Texas Executive Council. Vasquez served as municipal judge in Austin for nearly 20 years, from 1996 to 2015. His family has deep Texas roots dating all the way back to at least 1848. He grew up in San Antonio, where he graduated from high school at age 16. He then went on to attend UT, where he graduated at the age of 19, and after graduating from UT School of Law, He lived in Austin for the next 32 years, where he raised his daughters with his wife, Maria. Now he has the good sense to live in San Antonio. And his favorite volunteer activity for AARP is registering people to vote. How cool is that? Please join me in welcoming John Vasquez.
I didn't realize I'd have my whole biography out there for you guys. Good morning, and on behalf of the volunteers and the members of AARP, welcome. As you know, my name is John Vasquez, and I am a native of San Antonio going back many generations, and I love this city. Today, AARP is sponsoring this debate to hear from mayoral candidates on their ideas for making San Antonio more livable and an even better place for people of all ages to live. In 2014, San Antonio joined the network of age-friendly communities, a group of communities around the country committed to improving environmental, social, and economic factors that influence the well-being of older persons and all persons. Age-friendly communities strive to be well-designed, livable communities that provide health and sustain economic growth, communities with happier, healthier residents for people of all ages. As part of our effort to promote age-friendly communities, AARP has asked San Antonians to identify their policy priorities. From our surveys, AARP surveys, we have learned that housing, transportation, health, and employment are among the most important issues to the public. These priorities don't just matter to the 150,000 AARP members in Bexar County. They matter to families and benefit San Antonians of all ages, from the 2-year-old to the 102-year-old, from the grandmother crossing a street with a walker to the mother pushing her child in a stroller. These are policy priorities that matter most to San Antonians. Our research also shows that older voters vote. 67% of voters who voted in the last mayoral election were age 55 plus. Candidates on the May 4th municipal ballot are likely well aware of this demographic and are attuned to the concerns of older voters. I want to encourage you as voters to do your homework. Take the time to learn about the candidates, their positions, and their records. The question voters should ask is, who really stands up for the issues that matter most to you? It's why I'm excited to hear from the candidates this morning, and I hope that you are equally excited to hear from them as well. Now, before I leave the podium, I want to say thanks to a few people, or some folks that are very important to what we do here in San Antonio. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the local AARP staff who work year-round here in San Antonio to keep the association doing great work, and particularly our local director, which is Lisa Rodriguez, and our staff person, Bunny Brightman. So please give them a hand. And then there are other people who are behind the scenes who do a great deal of work. In particular, I'd like to, one of our volunteer leaders is Juliana Castellano-Hoyt. She's a former Texas Executive Council member. And then you'll see people here in red shirts and some who aren't around here, and these are all volunteers with AARP who do so much work for our community, and I'd like to give them a hand as well. And then I'd also like to recognize a couple of our AARP dignitaries who are here in the audience, our statewide leaders who are important to what we do at the state level, because we, as you may or may not know, are active in the legislature, pushing for issues that are important to older persons and which matter to our communities around the state. And that would be our volunteer president, Charlene Hunter-James. She's up in the back. And then seated next to her is Mr. Bob Jackson, our long-running AARP State Director. So without further ado, I thank you again for being here, and I'll turn this podium back. If you want to, yeah.
Forgive me, I'm going to read this in a minute, but I'm introducing my dear, dear friend who I've known for more than 1 decade, who also is over 50. Elaine Ayala is a Metro columnist at the San Antonio Express-News, a newspaper journalist for nearly 40 years. She's worked as a news reporter, features editor, blogger, and editorial page editor at 6 metropolitan dailies: Corpus Christi Caller-Times, Arizona Daily Star, Cleveland Plain Dealer, Austin American Statesman, El Paso Times, and the Express-News. And most of them are still standing. And she has worked at the Express-News since 1996, right after I got there. Her Metro column, and this is the most amazing thing, she is the Metro columnist for the San Antonio Express-News, a great, great thing for the city of San Antonio as far as I'm concerned. I'm completely biased about this. Her Metro column, which debuted very recently, appears on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays in the Express-News. She covers San Antonio and Bexar County. Among her specialty topics are communities of color, demography, immigration, and education. The San Antonio native graduated from Memorial High School and the University of Pennsylvania and has been involved in several journalism organizations throughout her career, most focused on increasing the number of minorities and women in U.S. newsrooms and scholarship fundraising for students pursuing careers in the media. She is the past president of San Antonio Association of Hispanic Journalists, the Austin Area Association of Hispanic Journalists, and the El Paso Association of Hispanic Journalists, and she served on the board of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. She is the recipient of several awards, including the Henry Guerra Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Journalism, awarded by San Antonio Association of Hispanic Journalists, the Philip True Award for Reporter of the Year, given by her peers at the Express-News, the inaugural Mission Heritage Award by the American Indians of Texas and Spanish Colonial Missions, the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce's inaugural Community Voice Award, a role model for the Martinez Street Women's Center, the Image of San Antonio Award given to women leaders, and the Governor's Yellow Rose of Texas Award. She has been inducted into the Edgewood Independent School District's Hall of Fame and the San Antonio Women's Hall of Fame. Please welcome Elaine Ayala.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. I have rules to read because debates are governed by rules. And Nowcast SA adopted the rules that Texas Public Radio does for its candidate debates. They are as follows. They consider election debates to be important forums for helping the community make informed decisions. To determine guidelines for debates, Texas Public Radio established viewpoint-neutral criteria for candidate inclusion. They are rooted in principles of editorial integrity and judgment. The criteria. A candidate must have met all legal qualifications required by the state of Texas to appear on a ballot and be eligible for office. 2, a candidate must actively campaign. To meet the definition of an active campaign, a candidate would need to establish a campaign headquarters with a paid and/or volunteer staff, generate public interest, such as being invited to speak at public gatherings and obtaining monetary contributions, and have a campaign that will be sufficiently newsworthy to warrant coverage by the media. In the current digital environment, there is a presumption that the candidate would have an easily accessible website and social media presence. 3, polls are often a measure of voter interest. If the debate involves candidates in a race where polling is undertaken, credible, nonpartisan polls may be considered. If a candidate consistently receives a minimum of 10% rating in established nonpartisan polls, the candidate may be presumed to be newsworthy. Voter interest may also be measured by the percentage of votes cast for a candidate in a previous election. And so a candidate would have had to receive a minimum of 10% of votes in a previous election for the same office or comparable office. In all cases, Texas Public Radio requires a candidate to meet the legal requirements for eligibility for office imposed by the state of Texas to be included in a debate. For candidates who satisfy this standard, Texas Public Radio considers the candidate's campaign activity and established nonpartisan polling data to make a viewpoint-neutral editorial judgment of the candidate's newsworthiness. Okay, now there's debate rules and time limits. On opening and closing statements, the order of opening and closing statements will be determined alphabetically prior to the debate. The candidate that appears first in the alphabet, Mr. Brockhouse, will start the opening remarks, followed by the other candidate. The candidate that goes last, Mayor Nirenberg, in opening statements, will go first in closing statements. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for opening statements and 2 minutes for closing statements. Now about questions. Questions for this mayoral debate will focus on age-friendly issues and concerns in San Antonio. The audience will write questions on note cards that are in your red bags, and AARP staff will collect them during the debate. Just raise your hand with your card and they'll pick them up. After organizing audience member questions into major themes, AARP staff will provide the moderator with a curated questions to ask mayoral candidates. Now on the order and timing of questions. The candidate who makes the second opening statement will receive the first question. Subsequently, the questions will alternate. The candidate will have 60 seconds to respond. The other candidate will have 30 seconds to rebuttal. Candidates will receive a 10-second alert before their timing is up. The timekeeper should raise her hand up in the air so we all know where she is, right up front. Candidates who go over time will receive one verbal warning from the moderator. That's me. I'll have to warn you. I'll be looking. It's nothing personal. After the verbal warning, the moderator will begin to deduct time from the candidate's time to answer and rebut the next question. Okay, so remember your index cards, raise your hand when you have it, and candidates, please look at the timekeeper. Now let's do bios. I've got lots to read this morning before we get to things. And I took these bios directly from the City of San Antonio website. First, Ron Nirenberg. He's the mayor of San Antonio, the fastest growing city in the seventh largest population, with the seventh largest population in the United States. He was raised in Austin and attended college in San Antonio. Nirenberg is the son of an immigrant from Southeast Asia and the grandson of immigrants from Eastern Europe who passed through Ellis Island. Through his personal experiences, Mayor Nirenberg developed a core commitment to civic participation and the universal values of liberty, justice, and equal opportunity for every person. He is focused on making key infrastructure investments necessary to accommodate the growth of San Antonio, which is expected to nearly double in population by 2040. This forward-thinking approach drives the mayor's vision of a compassionate community with a globally competitive economy. He was first elected to represent District 8 on the San Antonio City Council in 2013. During his 2 terms, he championed smart city and regional planning, inclusive economic development, environmental stewardship, fiscal responsibility, and governmental accountability. Mayor Nirenberg is the chairman of Sister Cities International, a nonpartisan organization that connects cities across the globe through civic, educational, and cultural exchanges. The mayor continues to promote San Antonio as a premier 21st century city open for business, trade, and investment, attracting top talent and innovation companies. In 2018, The United States Conference of Mayors recognized Mayor Nirenberg with the Small Business Advocate Award for his efforts to encourage entrepreneurialism. He believes that success is achieved by partnerships. As Councilman, Nirenberg brought together a public-private coalition to save the world-renowned Bracken Bat Cave, the largest colony of bats in the world. Prior to his public service, Nirenberg was the founder of 2 small businesses, worked as the general manager of KRTU-FM San Antonio, and as a program director for the Annenberg Public Policy Center, where he developed and directed award-winning civic engagement programs. Mayor Nirenberg graduated summa cum laude from Trinity University and received a master's degree in communication, magna cum laude, from the University of Pennsylvania. He and his wife, First Lady Erica Prosper, are the proud parents of their son, Jonah. And if he were here, he would be the first to ask a question. Greg Brockhouse was elected to San Antonio City Council for District 6 in June 2017. Brockhouse has deep roots in District 6. He graduated from John Day High School in 1990 and joined the U.S. Air Force right after high school. He served over 9 years on active duty. Brockhouse is a graduate of Southwest Texas State University and is a certified public manager in the state of Texas, having graduated from the William P. Hobby Center for Public Service at Texas State. Brockhouse current city council appointments are on the Public Safety Committee, the Transportation Committee, the Community Health and Equity Committee, the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee, the Alamo Area Metropolitan Planning Organization's Transportation Policy Board. Brockhouse is married to the former Annalisa Sandoval. They have 5 children. Emma, who's 25, is a 2014 graduate of Texas Tech University, and I'm so sorry about the game last night. We'll all get over it. Edward is 19, and he's a graduate of the Northside Independent School District. Daisy, who's 16, attends Earl Warren High School, and David, who's 14, attends middle school in Virginia, and Luke, who's 8, is a 3rd grader in the Northside school system. Following a passion for public service, Brockhouse left the banking industry in 2008 and began working in various political positions. He has worked in the capacity of Chief of Staff and Constituent Services Manager for multiple San Antonio City Council members. Greg is also a small business owner and launched his own marketing firm in District 6. His service mentality for City Council District 6 can be summed up with this quote: "I will never stop listening to what matters most to those in our community. I will focus on being a humble fighter whose main goal is to deliver exactly what the community wants. It's not my chair that I sit in at City Hall. It belongs to the residents of District 6, and I will put my heart into serving our community." Let's give them a round of applause. So in the order of the questions, Mr. Brockhouse will get the first opening talk, and then the mayor.
Okay, does this work, and can you hear me with this? We're good? I got to tell you, I think, no offense to Ron and I, but I think Elaine's bio was just a little bit better than the both of us. So thank you, Elaine, for your time and the opportunity to be here today and to moderate this. Thank you to AARP for putting together the opportunity for Ron and I again to come before the community and have a conversation about who we are and what we can be in the next 2 years, right, at City Council, City Hall, in the city of San Antonio. So it's always an honor to talk about what you believe in, but the best debates we have, the best conversations Ron and I ever have, are where we're in front of people, the average citizen, the person grinding every day, talking about their neighborhoods, their communities, and their lives. We can sit in front of trade organizations and business chambers all day long, but you really learn, like my quote there at the end of the bio said, we really learn the most when we talk to the residents and family members themselves, when we're in the community. The best elected representative is that person, he or she, that understands the neighborhood, then goes down to City Hall and delivers exactly that. I grew up my entire life here in San Antonio. My family started the Arrochas. As my mother likes to joke, I'm 51% Hispanic, 49% Caucasian. She says, I'm 51% Arocha. We grew up on Southwest Military down in that area, right off of Mission Road in South Cross into Roosevelt. My mother was raised with her 10 brothers and sisters in about a 700 square foot house. Not there today, but I do visit often and still see my family down there. We moved up to Valley High, graduated from John Jay, joined the Air Force, but got back to San Antonio as soon as I can. And what's exciting to me about this debate and this opportunity, there's two things that matter most in our policy that I try to do every day as a District 6 council person, and it's who you take care of most. You take care of our babies and children first, right? We've got to go after that. But the future of our community and city is the babies and our children, their education, and things that matter for them. And then the other one is the seniors, right? Our retired persons, the people who made us who we are today. Our policy has to begin and end with that. Those who are the future and those who brought us here today. Thank you for that opportunity and time I look forward to having a conversation.
Mayor, you get 2 minutes too.
Great. Thank you all for having me today. Thank you to AARP, our friends and neighbors who are here today. Thank you also to Palo Alto College, one of the top community colleges in the entire nation. My name is Ron Nirenberg. I'm the father of a 10-year-old son named Jonah. I'm the husband of Erica Prosper, and for the last 2 years, I've been honored and privileged to be your mayor. 2 years ago, you elected me mayor because I promised to deliver the city you deserve, and we've been delivering on that promise since. San Antonio, we have restored our momentum. Our community is thriving. Our economy is booming. We're at near full employment, and we've created 40,000 jobs over the last 2 years, most of them in target sectors where we have high-wage jobs that help lift all boats. More San Antonians today are working than ever before. We have also brought the crime down from what was a 25-year high to a 30-year low. And in our most important concern, traffic congestion, we've made great progress. We've doubled the commitment to basic street maintenance. We've concentrated on those priority projects in the most congested areas, and we've launched Connect SA, the most innovative transportation plan the city has ever seen. This is about making sure that our success continues, and the only way we can do that is to stay the course. And so I'm here to tell you, I'm the only one on this stage that has the track record of getting things done for us as a city, and also the vision for the future. And we see that, and I hope you'll agree that we need to continue to keep our economy moving, we need to continue to work and stay vigilant on crime, and we need to continue to forge ahead on innovative transportation solutions to our traffic problems. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for having me out at this wonderful institution, and I hope to earn your vote so I can continue working hard every single day to make San Antonio the city you deserve. Thank you.
In the order of the debate, the mayor will take the first question, get 60 seconds to respond, with a rebuttal from the councilman at 30 seconds. So the first question, Mr. Mayor. A third of San Antonio's population is age 50 plus, and that will continue to grow to about 600,000 people by the year 2020. Are there elements of your proposed agenda that will contribute to ensuring San Antonians age 50 plus that can live their best life possible regardless of their zip code? And if so, what are those elements?
Thank you for the question, and I'll focus on two elements, but really it's how we grow the entire city. The two elements I'd like to focus on are, number one, our equity budgeting, ensuring that we are using our city resources wisely and putting our resources where they are needed the most, which means that for the first time for any big city in the nation, particularly San Antonio, we're ensuring that communities, neighborhoods, zip codes that have been left behind for a generation are finally getting the investment in infrastructure, sidewalks, street maintenance, and so forth. The other element is finally delivering after 30 years ago when Mayor Henry Cisneros said we need a comprehensive housing strategy to ensure affordability and so that every person can live in dignity, affordably, and safely in this community. After 30 years, this administration, we launched the first ever comprehensive and compassionate housing strategy for the city of San Antonio. Now we need to implement it, and we have begun, and we will get it done.
Look, at the end of the day, we have to recognize the role that persons over 50 play in our community. We're living longer, right? We're going to be employed longer, and that policy and the things we do at City Hall need to reflect that. What concerns me about our policy at City Hall is it's focused on other things other than our over 50 population. A lot of our policies built around the millennial, right? The person coming to San Antonio moving here. I want to make sure that the people we have here, the 1.5 million folks living here and our future 600,000 seniors, have workforce education opportunities to keep working. Boy, that minute went super fast. I thought she said I had a minute.
No, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Okay. I thought it was minute, and he
No, but you're going to get the next question. So you get 60 seconds on this, and then the mayor will get 30 seconds for rebuttal. And this is a question from the audience. What is affordable housing, and what does it mean? I live near downtown, east of the Alamo Dome. Property taxes and rent have skyrocketed the past few years. Retired and disabled vet, myself and my community feel we're being pushed out of our neighborhoods. Councilman, 60 seconds.
Well, it's not a feel like you're being pushed out of your neighborhoods. You are being pushed out of your neighborhoods. Like I said a minute ago, you need to be able to make more money and work longer into your age as long as you want to work, right? Then you need to be able to keep more of that cash you're earning, which means lower property taxes and fees wherever possible. But most importantly, too, with that is we have to value your property the right way, right? Bexar County Appraisal District is overvaluing your property. That's more tax dollars back to the city, but we need to fix that system so you can stay in the aging in place and being able to keep your generational home and pass that on to your children's important. Oh, by the way, you're not just raising yourself and living your own life. Most likely our seniors are also raising their grandchildren. And in some neighborhoods in our community, they're raising those babies permanently, full time. So we have to help you keep more of your money so that you're providing for the family you're raising now, you're providing for your life, you're able to earn money in cash, and you stay in your home. We must lower the property taxes and correct the valuation system so you can keep what you've worked hard for decades of your life.
Mr. Mayor, 30 seconds.
Yeah, this question of making sure that displacement is not an acceptable condition in San Antonio is precisely why we launched the Compassionate Housing Strategy for San Antonio. So we are working on focused property tax relief. We just launched last week a top-down review of the Bexar Appraisal District process, and we're working to ensure that everyone can live in dignity affordably on an accelerated displacement prevention strategy as well as a risk mitigation tool that people, if they are in displacement, we also have a safety net available to them. It's all of us working together.
Mayor, you get the next question. Studies show that individuals 50 plus make significant economic contributions to their states and their local communities. But job training for older adults who want to learn new job skills within their job or get training in a different field are lacking. What policies and programs would you implement to support the economic engine referred to as the longevity economy in San Antonio? 60 seconds.
Well, thank you also for that question. The La Vida Buena policy, the vision for making sure we're an age-friendly community cannot leave out the fact that we have a large and growing population that needs to have opportunities for employment later in life, and that means skills training. So all of our workforce development strategy, whether it's understanding the needs of the industries that are coming to San Antonio and also the skills that are still at a gap in San Antonio, are focused on allowing access to those skills trainings at all levels. Project Upgrade, for instance, is identifying people in our community that can have a little bit of extra training to upgrade their careers and skill sets on an annual basis. So we continue to work with that, provide access to those facilities, whether they're community centers, libraries, or in our businesses and industries in partnership with SA Works. We're going to work on that together to ensure everyone has an opportunity to thrive and to work in a career that's meaningful.
Mr. Councilman, 30 seconds.
At the end of the day, when you put your name on an application, you're over 50 years old, you shouldn't feel like that's a hindrance, right? You should have the qualifications. You already have them, but you should be seen for the qualifications, not for the age on the application. And that means we have to help you with workforce education. I think Alamo College is exactly where we need to go with this. Palo Alto is exactly where we need to go with this, which is investing in that tuition assistance, that help for the senior to get the education they need. They can't be afraid of the school because they're not. They've already been through it. But what they're worried about is getting treated fairly in the workplace. So we have to offer the workforce education, provide the funding out of City Hall, and let's help people keep working for as long as they want to for their family.
Okay, Councilman, you get the next question, which comes from the audience. What is your vision for senior transportation in the future of San Antonio?
Yeah, this is an interesting point. One of the things that scared me that I didn't like what the city of San Antonio did was they consolidated these 10 senior centers across the community. Now, on the surface, that looked like that was a great idea. At District 6's Lopez Center's 9,000 people enrolled. Guess how many average visitors they get a day? 250 to 300. You know what happens is that range, that reach, is tough for a senior from a mobility perspective to get to the senior center. So we've left people out on the edges. As senior centers in local neighborhoods began to close down and to support a super senior center, we've left seniors out. They lose the camaraderie, they lose the health and fitness aspect of it, the nutrition aspect. We actually purchased a van in District 6 to try to bus them in, and you know what? They didn't want to ride the van because it was at a particular time and pickup spot that didn't make sense. So the things we have to do is create that system using VIA so that the seniors in control of their mobility and they could get to these centers. Then we got to get back to opening up the opportunities for more centers and outreach. A senior at home by themselves is the absolute last thing we want. We want interaction and community involvement.
Specifically on transportation, we need to focus on 3 strategies. One is we need to build and create these resources that people can get to so they don't have to travel as great a distance. That's community centers, that's senior centers, nutrition centers. People shouldn't have to travel so far. In addition, we have to fully fund our public transit agency. We have to ensure that people have point-to-point transportation to their medical, to all the other appointments and jobs and so forth. And then finally, we have to actually get serious about building complete streets. We need to make sure that they're accessible and safe for all modes of transportation.
Mr. Mayor, you get the next question. San Antonio has one of the lowest rates of voter participation among the 20 largest Texas cities. Regularly, fewer than 12% of San Antonio voters participate in municipal elections. What would you do to increase voter participation in municipal elections? You have 60 seconds.
Well, this is a full-on systemic change that we need, and I think partially it has to make sure, we have to ensure that we're not creating obstacles for people to participate. We have to look for access to town halls and meetings just like this when it's not campaign and election time. We have to be more accessible to our community, which is why Councilwoman Sandoval and I have launched a new public participation protocol. And we have to look at how our governance structure also prevents people from voting. I have long been an advocate for us unifying election dates to a November election cycle rather than us being in the middle of summer and trying to get people's attention during Fiesta for a municipal election. We know that if we moved election dates to November, we would have a 4-fold increase in participation year over year. We need to do that. Thank you. And then finally, we have to make sure that we're reaching out to every neighborhood, every center, every opportunity we have to reach voters on a day-to-day basis when it's not election time is an opportunity for us to tell people they have a voice and they need to take advantage of it.
Councilman, 60 seconds. I mean, 30 seconds, 30 seconds.
Good. You got me on that one again, almost right there. Look, we need to be careful, right? Because I think one of the biggest problems with voter apathy is the elected officials themselves at City Hall. When you don't follow what the neighborhoods want, when there's a disconnect, people don't trust or believe in their government. And that's not just here, it's nationally, it's statewide, and it's local. So restoring trust and doing what neighborhoods want is going to drive people out, being present, showing up, trusting and knowing your leadership. They'll be there and show. Look, I don't necessarily agree moving it to a November timeline. We are a nonpartisan election race. I love the ability to focus on municipal issues first so that those things matter most to the voters and not 200 people on a ballot get voting on.
Councilman, you get the next question, 60 seconds. Nearly 1 in 10, that's 86% of San Antonians 50 plus, say it's extremely important to live in their own home as they age, and half feel it is important to remain in their communities. What specific actions would you take as mayor to set standards for the design and construction of new housing and reconstruction of existing housing that would promote greater accessibility, affordability, increased housing choice, and enable residents to remain in their homes and communities as they age?
The city has to be very careful where we put our incentives and how we grow communities. We've got a great success model with the Pearl off of Broadway. But what we found with that is as we kept building and incentivizing in there and putting millions in there, what happened to Dignity Park? What happened to Dignity Hills? Excuse me. What happened to Mankey Park? What happened to Lavaca? What happened to Denver Heights? People came in and started being priced out of their homes, moved out because we put too much money into the neighborhood, didn't know when to turn it off. So as mayor, I'm going to spread those resources across the city. Right, we're going to incentivize in more areas so that people want to live in certain, what's important to them around the educational facilities, the work facilities. I think we spent too much time in the decade of downtown and it priced people out of their homes and you couldn't afford it, right? So the first piece is spread the incentives. The second piece is tax relief, proper property valuations. We have to fix that as well. And then we have to come in and make sure we're understanding exactly where seniors want to live and how they want to live in a community that's tight-knit and compact. We're building a development just like that in District 6 that's near YMCA, that's walkable, that has every facility they need.
Thank you so much. Mayor, 30 seconds on rebuttal.
I think it starts with reminding ourselves that our housing strategies need to be compassionate and our focus needs to be on people and ensuring that they get to stay in their homes with dignity and affordably and safely. I support Representative Bernal's focus on providing targeted exemptions for people who have been in their homes for a long time to provide tax relief, but also the compassionate and comprehensive housing strategy with owner-occupied rehabilitation funds should in some part focus on retrofitting to allow for accessibility for aging residents to stay in their homes as well.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, you get this next question with 60 seconds to answer. In 2016, San Antonio was named the least equal city in the country by the Economic Innovation Group. We lead the nation when it comes to the extreme differences between our more prosperous neighborhoods and our more distressed ones. What will you do to close the opportunity and prosperity gap that currently exists in our city?
Thank you for that question, and I'm glad this was asked. And we should not be proud of the fact that we've ranked there for many, many years. But I am very proud of the fact that this community now has rallied to do something about it. It started with the fact that the first thing I did as mayor was sign the city's Charter for Compassion. Everything we do needs to be focused on how we improve people's lives, and it doesn't matter where you live or what zip code you're in. You should have a great city where you can live fairly in a quality place. So we focus on equity budgeting, making sure that we put our resources where they're needed the most, where they can be invested in to bring up neighborhoods that have been long forgotten. We're investing in our neighborhoods better. And we're working on the affordable, comprehensive housing strategy as a community. It can't stop there, though. We have to continue to work to create opportunity in every neighborhood, which is why I am so excited about the Alamo Promise program, which would say to every student who is in a Bexar County high school, if you graduate, you will be able to go to a community college without regards to your circumstances and without worry about making tuition payments.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman, rebuttal, 30 seconds.
We just have to make sure that the council member, the person elected to represent you in your district, has the means necessary to provide what's best for you. You elect someone to go down to City Hall. I'm representing District 6. You know what concerns me about our policy is that those same neighborhoods that started a couple of years ago that are struggling, or 5 or 10 years ago, they're struggling today. There is no difference. It doesn't matter if it was Cheryl Scully as the city manager or Mayor Ron Nirenberg. We have to make sure we get back to understanding communities are routinely left behind. The sidewalks in neighborhoods of communities, Old Highway 90 in District 6, a perfect example. We have to get in there and do the things that matter most to the neighborhoods. Nobody gets left behind. That needs to be our mantra no matter what we're doing.
Councilman, you get the next question with 60 seconds to respond. And apparently this question has come up from various cards, so I'm just reading one as an example. Several people raised questions about the Chick-fil-A vote. Where do you stand?
Well, I mean, I made my point very clear on it. To me, it's a religious freedom issue. We made a bad decision. We need to revote it and fix it and bring Chick-fil-A back to the airport, period. The problem with the situation is that the council made a value morality decision because of the previous owner from Chick-fil-A's position on donations and cash and what he did from a religious freedom perspective. The mayor has talked about it being closed on Sunday and a financial piece. I'm here to tell you, number one, I honor the fact Chick-fil-A closes on Sunday. I think that's a wonderful thing. The second piece is we will not lose any revenue because Chick-fil-A makes more in 6 days than other restaurants make in 7. So it's a bad decision. You don't have to just listen to me. Just go look it up. It has become a national embarrassment. It's a statewide embarrassment. We cannot be closed for business because the RFP process and how we award contracts is not consistent. During that last-minute vote, what happened was we held them accountable for rules that weren't even in the contract. Their hours of operation were not in the contract. We did it because we disagreed with Chick-fil-A and their donations and who they believed in, right, from a faith perspective. As mayor, I'm not going to let that happen.
Mayor, you have 30 seconds to reboot this question.
I wish the councilman was as excited to talk about housing and transportation and equity as he is about fast food. But here's why I voted the way I did. I do not concern myself. In fact, I applaud Chick-fil-A for their faith-based business model. I don't consider who they donate to when I cast my vote. But I want to make sure in the retail space, the scarce retail space of the airport, when people walk through, which is 1.5 million people on Sunday, that they're walking through a full array of options, not a darkened food court, and in a contract that is emphasizing local. We need to have local businesses.
Mr. Mayor, we have to stop there. Okay, you do get the next question with 60 seconds on this one. And there are a lot of questions coming from the audience about property values and appraisals, so I'll give you one. Would you favor the establishment of a homestead exemption for persons under the age of 50?
We are analyzing homestead exemptions right now. I will tell you this, when we want to provide tax relief for our community, we need to focus on where the tax relief can be found first, which is to make sure that the state legislature fully funds public schools in our city. If that does not happen, there is no tax relief to be found, and that is from the legislature themselves. But we are taking it upon ourselves to provide what relief we can. So San Antonio has passed and now has the strongest senior exemption in the state of Texas. In fact, if you're over 65 and you live in your home, you own your home, your tax bill will be frozen across the board. In addition to that, we are supporting and we are analyzing right now possible increases in exemptions for people who need the relief the most. And then finally, again, just last week I led the council to authorize a top-down review of the Bexar County Appraisal District to see where it's out of line, because we want to make sure that your property is appraised for what it's worth, not what the government thinks it needs.
Councilman, 30 seconds.
I think the record speaks for itself on this one. 2 years in a row, I pushed for property tax relief. I motioned on the floor to force a property tax vote. The mayor voted against property tax relief 2 years in a row. He was opposed to a citywide homestead exemption. I have fought for a citywide homestead exemption. As your mayor, I'm going to do two things. We're going to lower the tax rate. We're going to fix the valuation system. That I support 100%. And then the second piece is we're going to implement a citywide homestead exemption. San Antonio is the only big city in this state that doesn't have one. Austin, Dallas, Houston, they all have one. We need a citywide homestead exemption, and we need to lower property tax rates as quickly as possible.
Councilman, you get the next question, and this one is coming from the audience, and it says, will Connect SA include older adults' transportation needs?
I think it will if we make it a VIA-focused movement. At the end of the day, VIA receives half of the funding of the rest of the big metropolitan transit systems in the state. Half the funding. They have billions less over the last 10 years to invest in their metropolitan transit system. VIA does more with less than any other organization I've ever seen. So the first thing we need to do is we need to fulfill their full funding to make sure they have it, they put their money to good use, they're the transportation experts. And I believe VIA is going to help that. Whether it's through Connect SA or some other task, it doesn't make a difference what it is. VIA is the expert in transportation. So if we put the money towards them, for instance, we gave them $10 million in the last budget cycle. They increased ridership in the focused areas. They increased turn time. So instead of waiting 20 minutes, you wait 12 minutes, or 30, you're waiting 20. The faster it is, the more convenient it is, the more people use the VIA bus system. So we have to invest in it, fully fund it, right? Fully fund it, and then make it accessible. So that last piece from you as a citizen, making it to the bus, needs to be easy and quick, especially for our over 50 community.
30 seconds.
So the answer to the question is yes, it does and it will. I launched Connect SA to bring us comprehensive transportation reform in the city and to also bring San Antonio mass transit for the first time in our history. Part of Connect SA is an integration of all of our transportation modes. So we want to make sure we improve VIA, we improve VIA Trans, but we also work with private transportation providers to offer point-to-point transportation for people who need it, to go to doctor's appointments, to go to their jobs, to their schools, and so forth.
Mr. Mayor, you get the next question. While 96% of San Antonio's surveyed say that sidewalks are in good condition and safe for pedestrians for all abilities, only 45% say that these types of sidewalks exist in their community. What would you do to address this unmet need?
You know, I'm surprised we haven't talked about scooters yet, but I know we will. The great takeaway for me on scooters is that Alex Briseno, our former city manager back in the 90s, was right. We need to build wider sidewalks for this community. We need to make sure they're walkable and they're connected. We have identified 200 miles of sidewalk gap throughout our community, so we are prioritizing that. And in fact, over the last 2 years as your mayor, we've doubled the basic maintenance resources of our streets and our sidewalks. I'm proud of that. We're making progress, we're on the right track, but we can't stop. So our pedestrian network, which is all of our sidewalks, is also a fundamental component of Connect SA. So we will have a vote to make sure that not only are we serious about sidewalks from a year-to-year standpoint in our operational budget, but it is part of our long-term vision, accessibility and multimodal.
Sidewalks are going to matter, especially to our senior community, our aging community, and our over 50 community. And I have sidewalks in District 6 that we're fighting that look like a bomb was dropped on them 10, 20, 30 years ago. And they still continue to look that way. So what we did was we came in and we prioritized all those streets, all those sidewalks in all those areas. It's not just about a complete street. It's more for me about the sidewalk itself, because it's got to be safe, accessible, right? We have to make sure persons with disability can use them. And I tell you right now, we've got a major sidewalk issue with gaps in District 6. We need more money and funding, so we're going to have to up that, but be smart about where it goes. Put the money to the sidewalk opportunities first, and that's what I've done as the District 6 councilperson.
Councilman, you get the next question with 60 seconds. What? Okay, keep my voice up, I'm told. All right. San Antonio can play, oh, wait. How would you approach, or are approaching, some of the top health challenges of San Antonio's age 50-plus population as identified by the 2014 AARP age-friendly survey in regards to especially obesity and diabetes?
Well, that's what comes back, like we talked about earlier, was accessible options, right? So mobility and then the option place to get to make that happen. What scares me about that seniors, if I'm thinking about Old Highway 9, I keep coming back to that because that community means the world to me. When I think about the people that have grown up right there, the generations of families that are living there, I think about the grandmothers and the great-grandparents that are sitting there that don't have access to the senior center, or they can't get to a nutrition center, or their family has moved out of state and they're not having the support they need. And they're basically shut in at that point with a lack of options and opportunities. So the first thing we got to do is get to people. A couple weeks ago, I went on a Meals on Wheels ride-along and delivered to seniors. And I can't tell you enough how happy they were just knowing I was coming to the door at 11:30 on the dot. That tells me we've got major issues. Food is going to be an issue. So proper nutrition, I think ramping up and supporting more places like Meals on Wheels, getting the mobility and access so that they can get to the senior centers. More local nutrition centers helps seniors and aging persons as well. So that means city investment, putting the money where it matters most, and that's in our senior community.
30 seconds.
This question is a great reminder that we don't just build infrastructure and streets and parks just for the heck of it. We have to do that with a focus on improving people's lives. So for this question, I would say we have to empower our Metro Health Department. And in fact, Dr. Colleen Bridger, who is appointed to now Assistant City Manager, was the director of the Health Department. We just finished, with public input, the 5-year strategic plan that focuses specifically on healthcare access, as well as access to healthy options in nutrition. We need to focus on that and implement that, and that will take prioritization within our city resources.
Mayor, you get the next question with 60 seconds to answer. Several people have raised the crime rate, so tell us what the crime rate is in San Antonio is and what a mayor can do about it to lower it.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that. When Y took over 2 years ago, we were suffering from what many cities were, and that was a spike, a historic spike in violent crime. In fact, we were known in the mid-90s as the drive-by capital of the world. Our crime rate in 2016 had spiked to that very level. Over the last 2 years, we've focused on it. So we dropped the crime rate. In 2017, by 17%. We followed that up just last year with another 18% reduction in Category 1 crimes. Today, no matter what anyone tells you, we have dropped the crime rate twice as fast as the national average, and we are at a 30-year low. What we can do is continue to empower and champion the work of our local law enforcement and the community around them, but we can also ensure we build upon the success, not be embarrassed by it. We're making great progress. We have to stay vigilant. The watch never ends, and we have to ensure that everyone in this community, regardless of where they live, feels safe in their homes.
Councilman, 30 seconds.
The facts on the crime rate is we're still the number one city, the top 15 cities in the nation, we still have the highest crime rate. Yes, it has decreased. I don't dispute that at all, but it's still number one in the nation. And by the way, the neighborhood you live in will tell you how you feel about crime. It's different in every neighborhood. It feels different on certain sides of town because certain sides of town are left out. The money and resources aren't going to particular areas of this community, and that's what we have to fix. So it's more police officers, and it's getting them to the areas that need the help the most. Because if you live on one side of town, I can guarantee you feel different about crime on the other.
Councilman, another from the audience. Today is an Ozone Action Day. What will you do to help our air quality?
Well, I tell you, we did end up in non-attainment about a year ago because our ozone levels got out of control. But I can tell you this, they've been decreasing for years, right? They've been dropping. There's a consistent level of work done by folks like ACOG, our Alamo Area Council of Governments, our Health and Equity Committee at the City of San Antonio, the department that focuses and works on that. So together we work on different policies and things that help community health. I've learned a lot being just a part of that about things I had no idea about. I'll be honest with you. I'm learning as much as it comes to energy and renewable sources and how we save and help our environment, our water, and our air. There's a lot to learn about it. But I can tell you this much. We are doing well, right? So what we have to do is fight to make sure, number one, that the metrics and measurements are accurate, right, that those ozone levels make sense. Ozone Action Days are a great help. Those things have been, but San Antonio has always been on the cutting edge of those things, by the way. The work we do has shown success. So we've been decreasing those rates. We've been creating a better air quality. It's just a matter of sticking to it and making sure that we're all a part of that. That's education and following the plan we've been already successful with.
Mayor, 60 seconds.
You know, I think we can first start by stop disputing indisputable science. We've got to clean up our air, and I've long championed our efforts locally to reduce air pollution. In fact, I was the chairman of the Air Executive Committee when we got us on an early action strategy to reduce the impact of non-attainment that we knew was coming. But we can't stop there. We have to implement the strategies that we have in place. In fact, Dr. Bridger, who I just mentioned, rolled out the strategic plan to improve air quality in this region, and we need to focus on implementing it and not arguing against science that has been long debated and settled.
Mr. Mayor, you get the next question, 60 seconds. Connect us, oh, and it comes from YouTube. Someone's watching. Or many people are watching, I'm sure, Charlotte. Connect SA will take away bus routes and replace them with mobility on demand, which is more expensive and you must have a smartphone. Will you support VIA instead of this scheme?
Actually, that is, thank you for the question and an opportunity to clarify that. That is not the case. In fact, one of the fundamental components of Connect SA is to fully fund our bus network, to improve bus routes. And I would say I'm happy to have championed an effort along with Councilman Ray Saldana to improve bus routes in this area and on the west side where we know that they're needed most. In fact, 18 bus routes by the City Council were improved in 2017, and the results are astounding. In those 18 bus routes, the ridership is up by 30 and 40%. So Connect SA will focus on comprehensive strategies. We're adding mobile on-demand access to VIA and other transportation options, but we're not eliminating anything. We're integrating all of these networks so that we have a comprehensive transportation system that can last into the future.
30 seconds, Councilman.
Like I mentioned earlier, this is a VIA answer for me right down the line. And by the way, all 11 of us on the City Council supported putting that cash into VIA because it's the right answer. It reduced wait times and it increased ridership. We need to go there and make those investments, put that money in there. But we have to be careful. This is very important because that question raises a concern. What we do as a City Council needs to mirror and look like our community. If we're going to do things that are smartphone driven, we have to make sure that everybody has access to that. If they don't, then those options don't make sense. For the bulk of our community, we've got to be very careful. So I have to keep an eye on that as your mayor, especially for the senior community. Can they operate and work within that confines of that policy?
Where are we now? I'm mixed up.
I'm lost you.
I think Councilman Brockhouse is next.
Okay, so I'll give you the next question. I'm sorry. This comes from Bill on Facebook. Will you support equity-based budgeting in the future? Do you understand the reasons for having it in the first place?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I had a problem with the equity-based budgeting when it came out, and I'll tell you exactly why. We did it for streets. We focused on streets and sidewalks with that dollars initially. And when it came out, the District 6 community, I represent District 6, received 0 equity dollars. Even though I carry a large portion of the west side, that old Highway 90 area, South San Joaquin, 36th Street, and I didn't get any additional equity dollars because those F-rated, those 0-rated streets they got ignored in the larger sum. So as a whole, District 6, which is how we measured it. So it's not, everybody wants to put the money where it matters most, but it's how you divvy it up. The city did it by saying District 6 has the second best streets in the city. Therefore, you get $0. Every one of us gets about $6 million, by the way, but this additional cash, District 6 got left out. So you know what I did? I went back and said, those metrics and answers don't make sense. I will not leave out the west side. I have to fight for those dollars. The next budget year, it changed, and we got $1.5 million. So you have to fight for the community you represent. That's District 6 for me, and in the future, it's going to be the city of San Antonio.
Mayor, 30 seconds.
Well, the facts do not lie, and the truth is District 6 in 2017-2018 budget got $6 million of transportation funds. If the councilman misappropriated those, he's not listening to his community, but he had $6 million of transportation funds because of the equity budgeting that we did. So yes, I support the equity-based budgeting. I believe it's one of the most important forward-looking approaches that we've taken to public resources in our lifetime, which is why it's being modeled across the country now.
Mr. Mayor, from Kelly on YouTube, would you consider a minimum wage ordinance of $15 an hour?
So the state constitution, the state law prevents city governments from setting a minimum wage. So what do we do about that? What we do at the City of San Antonio is I champion over the last 3 or 4 years an improvement of our own organization so we can be a model for this community. We want to make sure that anyone who works for the City of San Antonio that does work, essential work, on your behalf is getting a living wage. And that is demonstrated leadership at the local level that we hope private sector employers are taking a look at and breaking into their own organization's goals. And we're seeing that more and more. Standards are being raised to improve workers' wages. But we have to first and foremost, as a city government that represents you, stand for living wages and ensuring that everyone can afford to live comfortably in their homes and with dignity in our city of San Antonio.
Councilman, 30 seconds.
If you do business with the city of San Antonio, if you're a contractor, I think we can step in and say you need to pay that wage for anybody doing business with the city. But the city council telling businesses in San Antonio who to pay, how much, that's out of the line. It's not our responsibility to do that. We can incentivize it. We can help them by doing things like property tax rate reductions and other things that allow them to invest back in our business. But this, I'll tell you, City Hall does not create one single job. The business community does. We cannot mandate to them what to pay employees. That is not how it works in the state of Texas. It's not how it's going to work with me as your mayor. And I'll tell you right now, we're going to do the best we can to help them get there, but not mandate it.
Councilman, you get 60 seconds on this one. Would you sign onto a petition out there for municipalities to support Medicare for all?
No, I would not sign on to a petition to support Medicare for all. I think, look, the healthcare system itself has a lot of issues, and we know that. And it's going to get litigated at the federal level here over the next several years. And now that we have a divided government in D.C., we're going to get a good argument about it, right? We've got the Democrats in charge of the House, the President and the Republicans in charge of the executive branch and the Senate. I think we're going to see this debate come through also in our next presidential election, and that's where the hard work of these things has to happen. So Medicare for all is a federal issue. It's going to come down to that. Now, we're going to make a stand on that as a community in the city. I believe that that's not the answer from a cost perspective, and the things that someone always has to pay for these policies and things that happen in Washington, D.C., in Austin, or here in San Antonio. So we have to be very cognizant about the costs associated with everything. And it may be unpopular, right, to say I want to spend all this money, but the most popular thing is it's your dollars. And if the public wants that and it's affordable and makes sense, we're going to try to make it happen. But I think we have to be very careful. Ultimately, somebody has to pay for it. And right now, we don't have clear costs on what that is.
Okay, Councilman, you take the next question. Oh, you have a rebuttal. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Well, I think it is a shame that there are Americans living in 2019 that don't have access to health care, and the federal government has not taken this issue up with any seriousness other than the re-debate and relitigation of the Affordable Care Act. However, it is a federal issue. What I will be pushing for, though, what I can tell you that we already have at the local level is the expansion of Medicaid. It is a simple, egregious error on the part of the state to forego the aid that is readily available to our community that can help lift access to health care for everyone in this community, and we need to stop that.
Mr. Mayor, you get the next question with a 60-second answer. What is your stand on the problem of homelessness in San Antonio? What can you do for the streets and for the neighborhoods?
Well, this is a very important question. It's a complex question, and it's something that we've been grappling with for the better part of the last 2 decades, and we have not gotten it right. We have done better, but we've not gotten it right. I will say that we were focusing on ending veteran homelessness, which we've gotten to functional zero over the last couple of years, but we have seen an uptick in homelessness, and I think it's in large part due to the conditions of economics in our communities. So what we need to do is focus on the providers, but we also have to get serious about the fact that homelessness itself is not a cause, it is a symptom. And so we have focused on how we can look at the continuum of care, those factors that lead to someone being out on the streets, whether it's mental health, substance abuse, domestic violence, all these correlated factors that lead to homelessness, and we need to focus comprehensively on delivering for a continuum of care by supporting our nonprofit providers across the board.
We've made homelessness a #1 priority, top priority in District 6, and we did it in partnership with the faith community. So by bringing the faith community and the churches together, we actually performed 14 community outreach events to the homeless community. We've helped 17 different persons, and trust me, there's not a bridge you can drive over in San Antonio that probably does not have a homeless person underneath it. So look, it is a systemic issue, but it takes compassion, it takes trust, it takes help from the faith community to get out in that and to get them the services to Haven for Hope, and if not, then we got to get them the mental health and other issues that they need services with as quickly as possible. So,
Councilman, you get the next. You get the next question. Today, nearly 1.9 million people live in Bexar County, but the population is expected to grow by another 1 million by the year 2040, maybe sooner. What do you think is the single most important issue that the city must address as we plan this staggering population growth?
You know, I look at this, the single most important one I start to think about is wages and jobs and the ability of people to earn more of their money, right? Keep more of their money, earn more money, and afford the services and the things they want in their life. So for me, that wages and jobs answers the housing issue, right? You make a few more bucks, you keep more of your dollars, you stay in your home, or you afford an extra apartment, room in that apartment, a little more square footage in the house you purchase. Wages answers that. More jobs answers that. And we got a problem. We've had the worst job creation in San Antonio in the last 10 years. 2018, we had the worst job creation in 10 years. So if we got these people coming here, we have to make sure we have the jobs and opportunity for them. I'm more concerned about the 1.5, 1.9 million people here now, but we're going to have to bring these folks in. So jobs are going to answer that. Jobs are also going to answer things like where you live and how your lifestyle, the crime rate. All these things are affected by your ability to earn more money and keep it. So it's lower property taxes and those things. So we have to build the environment in the community for these folks coming here. But also remember, we're here for the people here now, the 1.5 million. That's the biggest focus for me.
You know, we have to work on comprehensive strategies, and it's hard to pick out just one. Housing is an economic building block, and it's important that we have an affordable, sustainable supply of housing for everyone in this community. But housing is inextricably linked with transportation, and that's why we're focusing on transportation, ensuring that people can get to and from work, to and from school, ensuring that they get a safe and affordable way of traveling to all their destinations. All of these issues are linked together, and we need to work on them comprehensively.
In AAR, and this goes for you, Mr. Mayor. In AARP's Livable Communities Survey, San Antonio age 50 plus, San Antonians who are age 50 plus, identified the need for programs that would enable residents to age in place in their current homes. Specifically, 78% of respondents identified that home repair service for low-income families and seniors was essential. What policy or program improvements or changes would you make to assist those with this need?
And this is a great question. I mean, the whole concept of aging in place is about compassionate housing strategies, and so that's where we're focused. And we get a considerable amount of funding from state and federal agencies to focus on priorities. And where we need to focus our priorities increasingly is making sure that we have accessibility in our current housing stock. So home repair, home rehabilitation is a certain focus for our comprehensive housing strategy. In addition to that, we have to ensure that there are dollars available for people who need it the most, so we focus those priorities in those areas that we know we're having a challenge with the housing stock. So implementation of the comprehensive housing strategy, and that starts with what we have in place as a model.
This is about access to funding and capital and the ability for somebody to age in place. So for me, we have to think about those things. It's going to revolve around disability access. It's going to revolve around something as simple as weather insulation and things that allow a senior, a resident, to stay in their home and live there and afford to live there as well, right, in a comfortable means and manner. It just can't be that they hang on to the home at all costs. So I think we as a city have to be very cognizant of taking care of our senior community. And for them, it's staying in their home. It's being able to raise their family, their grandchildren there, and visit them there. So I would make sure we continue that investment process, but we've got to make sure the money goes to where it matters most, first and foremost.
This question comes from the audience, and there's a degree of desperation in this question, and it's simple but very broad, but I'll ask it. I am disabled, so I stay in my apartment. What are you going to do about the East Side?
Wow, that is you're right about the question having a lot of depth to it. There's many reasons what could be happening in that particular situation, but this I'll tell you, it's a mentality to make sure that neighborhoods don't get left behind. Communities aren't left behind. And by the way, what happens often in our politics, you know who gets left behind a lot? Apartment dwellers. People living in apartments. We think oftentimes about voters, and when you're in election cycles, you go to doors, you knock on houses, you're in neighborhoods, you're trying to get into gated communities, and guess who oftentimes get left out? Apartment dwellers, people living in apartments. And when after you've lived your life, a lot of folks, we have senior living facilities in apartment complexes that are beautiful. We're building one next to a YMCA off of Petranco Road. Now the problem with that is this person is telling a story that should scare each and every one of us. If somebody's left out on an island like that, then the city has to think, how am I going to get there, right? And it's usually through our delegate agencies, the partners we do business with, like Meals on Wheels, like our health and safety departments, right? The Metro Health Department. Our outreach, our nutrition, our education, and our ability to get to them is very important. Get to that.
So, this is a pretty deep question. A couple things. One is that we need to make sure that our community of differently abled citizens has a voice at the table, and we have committees that make sure that when we do policies that everyone is taken into account. But also with regard to the East Side, we need to protect our neighborhoods. And so as we move forward on reinvestment of vital infrastructure, we have to have things in place like an anti-displacement or a displacement prevention policy, as well as the risk mitigation tools for people who are experiencing displacement to have a community safety net.
No one asked a scooter question, but I'll ask one. So where are we? Why do we have so many scooters downtown? They're a menace. Help us. What can you do about it?
Yeah. Well, I knew the scooters were going to come up. The scooters are a market-driven solution to a transportation problem. This is technological innovation. We can expect it, and we can expect more of it in the future. So what does the city do about it? Previously to the scooters arriving in San Antonio, it was a totally unregulated environment. So your city council, smartly, wisely, I believe, took a look at this onslaught of new technology and said, okay, the market is going to create solutions, but we have some basic things that we need to do. Protect for public safety, ensure that our sidewalks are not getting cluttered, and ensure that people, pedestrians, people in wheelchairs, strollers, are able to access the right-of-way that they have already paid for through their taxes. So we developed a pilot program. We knew that we couldn't get the regulations right the first time, so we developed a 6-month pilot regulation program, and we've been tweaking it along the way. And in the meantime, we're getting lots of public feedback, and we're going to use all that feedback to perfect the policy moving forward. But this is a glimpse of the future, and we need to be ready for it.
Councilman, 30 seconds.
The scooters are everywhere. They're not just downtown. I saw one the other day on 151. I had no idea what it was doing there. But we have to be very careful. We learned a valuable lesson, right? The technology came in, they didn't work with the city, and now we're living with this problem downtown. I think we have to move towards banning from the sidewalks and holding them accountable from a public safety perspective. Can't leave them laying around. If you are a bad actor, if you're a business that comes in and don't take care of your scooters, we should yank your permits and get rid of you. They need to be adhere to the city policies and procedures, and they need to put public safety first. Off the sidewalks, into bike lanes, or whatever means of transportation, but the pedestrian needs to come first.
Okay, Councilman, you get this next question. And this is a question that keeps coming up. I mean, more of the cards deal with this question, and we've dealt with it, but it's another way to address it. Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that. How will you protect our existing neighborhoods from the negative effects of gentrification?
This one does keep coming up, and you know why people are generally concerned about it? Because they can't stay in their homes. It's affecting everybody right now. All of us are struggling to figure out the right answer. I think it comes back to how we focus as a city, where we put our investments, and where we want to grow our community. That Pearl example is exactly how you lose a community. Homes that were $75,000 5 years ago are $400,000 now. Developers and speculators are coming in every day harassing our seniors to sell their properties. It's misinformation, and it's taking advantage of our senior community. So what we have to do is make sure that as a city, we educate and we put the dollars across the entire city. So developers are out working everywhere. For far too long, we focused in certain areas, and we've lost them for all time. People, the average San Antonio resident, they're making $48,000 a year for a family of 4, can't live in some of these areas. If you're a senior on a fixed income, good luck affording that payment. And what you're doing is you're basically holding on for dear life as everybody around you is pricing you out of your home. So it's where we put the money, it's spreading the incentives and making sure the entire city is supporting and opposing that gentrification movement from our resources like that.
We need to focus on targeted relief to ease the cost burden of homes for people who are the most disadvantaged. And so that comes with the work that we're doing at the local and the state level. And we also have to ensure that there's a community safety net. That's why we're developing and we are implementing the comprehensive and compassionate housing strategy that includes a displacement prevention strategy as well as a risk mitigation tool that allows for us to have resources in place when people are displaced. Investment is occurring, and we need to be ready for it so that we can revitalize communities but not displace our residents.
Mayor, this is more of a statement than a question, but I'll give it to you. Do not take away money from the Edwards Aquifer to fund transit. Water quality is just as important to health and quality of life as mass transit. This one came from YouTube.
I couldn't agree more. And I have been proud to champion the aquifer protection initiatives. We are over one of the great gifts of God with the Edwards Aquifer that keeps us supplied with clean, fresh water very affordably for our community and has been for 400 years. And we need to continue to champion our efforts to protect the Edwards Aquifer. We also, it's not a choice, we don't have to choose between transportation and the Edwards Aquifer. We can have both if we do it wisely. And so as I've said, when we invest in mass transit, it will not come at the expense of the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program. I championed it in 2015 to bring it back to the ballot where it was voted on and approved by the largest margins ever. And as we move forward, as mass transit gets funded, we have to ensure that the Edwards Aquifer Protection Initiative continues on at the same or a faster pace.
We just have to make sure that we're putting the money and using the money that matters most. I believe in VIA and the transportation upgrades. I believe we need to put more money into it. Where that money comes from, the beauty of it is it's going to be voter approved. So at the end of the day, you're going to be able to make the final decision. What scares me is funding VIA with future bond dollars, or funding our, turning around or funding our transportation or housing with future bond dollars. So we don't have to take down debt to answer it. I think we have the cash now to do it. We need to be wise with it and choose the right mechanism to fund it, and we should protect the aquifer at all costs. But we need to make sure that we do these together in unison, and it's a total policy and spending plan.
Let's give them a big round of applause because we've gotten to the end of our questions. Now each will make a 2-minute closing statement, and we'll begin with the mayor.
Well, thank you all for having us today. It was a great honor to be in front of you and to be working with you over the last couple of years as your mayor. I think we presented a very clear choice today. I'm the only candidate on this stage that has a proven track record of getting things done for the city. You see that with the work that we're doing on transportation, the fact that we've doubled our resources and our transportation system is now getting the funding it needs it. You've seen that in the plummeting crime rate. You've seen that in the economy that's booming and creating jobs in all sectors. I'm also the only candidate that has a clear and articulated vision for the future. Connect SA, the most innovative transportation plan the city has ever seen, will be on your ballot next year. You see that with the Alamo Promise program as we work towards a community college system that offers tuition-free college education for every Bexar County student that comes through our high schools. You see that with the equity budgeting, which is planning to invest and working with you to invest our resources where they can be most impactful and have the most benefit for our community. That's what you have seen from me over the last 2 years. That's what I will provide moving forward, and I hope you will agree that we need to continue to keep our economy booming. We need to continue to stay vigilant on crime. We need to continue to forge ahead on transportation solutions to our traffic problems, and I hope to earn your vote to continue working hard every single day on the city you deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the time to be here today. Thank you to AARP, Elaine, for the opportunity, and thank you again to Ron for continuing to stand with me and debate the future of the city. I'm going to push back on Ron, obviously. I have had great success. My team and I have done wonderful things in District 6, and we work hard. But you know what the key to our success is? I answer to the neighborhoods and communities. That's number one with me. I'm sorry. I'm not downtown 90% of my time. 90% of my time, I'm out in the neighborhoods. I'm block walking. I'm talking to communities. I know where the potholes are. I know where the problems are. I know the streets and sidewalks suffer. I know the senior who's not eating on Old Highway 90. I go out there and I live the community. I am a messenger for District 6. And I go down and fight for that every day, and I'm proud of our success. Whether it's putting bond dollars into street repair maintenance, it's a homeless initiative, it's a community cleanup plan, you name it. We continue to fight hard for neighborhoods and residents, and that's the type of council person I'm going to be. I'm not going to answer downtown and live my life down there as your mayor. I'm going to live it out in the neighborhoods and in the communities. And by the way, we're here today because these are over 50 senior issues. We need to honor that. We need to put those dollars and our resources into our senior community and into our babies. That's the future. Education here, education there, opportunity here, and then over here as well. We cannot leave behind those who built this community from the ground up. And that means we need to be there for you and push those resources out into the neighborhoods. We don't have a difference of opinion, Ron and I, that we love San Antonio. We both love it. We just have a different viewpoint of how to get there. Doesn't mean I don't have accomplishment. You notice I don't say Ron's not accomplishing anything. What I say is I don't agree with this plan. And I think we need to get back to basics. Lower property taxes and fees, jobs and wages, focus on public safety and fully staff that department. And then in this room, right, make sure that seniors are at the top of that priority list. Like I talked about at the beginning with those super senior centers, the city can make policy and do things in a goodwill manner and still hurt people and leave people out. As your mayor, with your vote on May 4th, I will not leave you out. I will be the biggest supporter and champion for the senior community and will continue fighting for the things that matter most to you. Thank you.
Let's give Nowcast SA and AARP a great big round of applause for bringing us here today.
Okay, here's the quiz. When does early voting start? April 22nd. And election day? Vote.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am.